Okay, so let's get into the next lesson, lesson 19. We're going to continue with show prep, and this is going to be quite a short lesson. So just quickly hang on over here. I want to just kind of just continue without kind of any introductions because there is a follow-up from the last lesson, which we had a lot of context and we spoke about, just the approaches to how to, this kind of the ethical value as well and your work discipline, and then again, where to find content, different sources, etc., etc., etc. And so we're going to continue with that kind of mindset and to see again just how to reconform that discipline within you. Let's have a look at this slide here. Successful broadcasters are ferocious planners that are simultaneously able to uh, act really spontaneously, um, a personality on air with confidence. That kind of confidence, that kind of spontaneity comes from the fact that you did plan as well. So you do have, again, you have ownership of your material. You kind of have ownership of the space. I'm saying to the studio itself, you know how to use the desk, you know how to use the controls, you know how to get voice notes, you know how to use the phone. And also again with that confidence, because once a little bit has a little while has passed and you really get comfortable kind of in your own being, because radio brings out the real version of you. And again, we want to kind of exponentially grow that, and showcase that, because you are an entertainer after all. That confidence is quite clear, because your personality is so clear itself as well. And it's like I say, it's communicated and confided in with the listener. Lane, obviously, who's we getting the quotes from, and the phrases, these paraphrasings. Lane proposes the following guidelines that can follow during the preparation phase. Let's have a look at them. Plan for all segments beforehand, definitely. So as part of your prep, I mean, you're going to give the timestamps for. You're going to work around, let's say, balance. So let's say a content-heavy piece versus an admin piece and a teaser standalone piece. I mean, that will happen when you're going to have to just promote the station, etc. Maybe run a competition. Hold weekly planning and brainstorming meetings. That's obviously more referring to and relevant for a team. But for yourself, it should be an ongoing process, especially if you are a daytime or a weekday presenter. Plan to insert the character and personalities into everything that you prepare, right? So not don't rehearse that. Just make sure that you arrive like in a spotlight. You understand, when you get to studio, when you get behind mic, and don't hold back in the sense that, I say don't hold back in terms of the kind of the capacity or personality. Build things with the P2 listeners in mind. So we have introduced the concepts of a P1 listenership, and that is the person that only listens to that one radio station with no other kind of loyalty with another station. The P2 listener is a little bit more common, and will share this station with just a number, maybe two or three other, I say attention, uh, I say attention seekers, but in that it could be TV also, it could be other stations as well. And so, but ideally, we look at a P2 listener in terms of having one station that they listen to more loyally than another, but they do have an alternative as well. So we are looking at that person that is just within the target market and not in the core market as well, which allows us to plan content that is more relevant to a kind of a larger scale than just the very, very, I say the very, very small and very unique and very particular core audience. Okay, so let's continue. Let's look at the planning process and how that should be approached. So in the previous lesson, we did speak about how important it is to have a solid plan for the show, really, because one, it's your job. Two, it's respect for the listener. Three, it's a way to structure your thinking as well as the flow. like I said, there's an ebb and flow when I say coming to approaching a show itself, where, like I said, there will be certain parts of that'll be lighter, and I say lighter in content. I actually be lighter also in with context, but other parts that will be, there's a good balance between certain things, depending on also what type of show you're doing, when you're doing it, what station you're doing it for, and obviously the target listener that you're doing it for as well, right? It's now time to fill the link with actual contents, right? So you've now planned, the content type that you want. Like I said, the various types there. We'll use the planning sheet to help us with this process. The planning sheet starts with a reminder of the execution rule of four. Planning, out of these four rules, is the cornerstone of any great piece of content. And so, what are we actually referring to? Well, this is familiar to you: the hook, the payoff, the point of view, and maybe what else. Now, we've seen many kind of, I say, iterations of the approach, where you've seen the hook, the dress up, the crumbs, the dress up, then the payoff, the blackout. So there are many aspects that we can approach the link with. I'm saying different methodologies and structures. Just know that, just in essence, at the end of it all, like, you got to grab their attention. There's got to be a reason as to why you are doing this, which is what structures the relevant information and what facts and I say kind of fiction you want to put in there. And then does it, and how will this support the end game? In other words, what it is that you want to have the conversation with your listener about, right? So point of view, very important. You're hired because you're supposed to express certain points of view, but also encourage other points of view from your listeners as well. So you want a conversation, you're asking for one, have a conversation, and don't make it kind of one-sided and one-dimensional, etc. When I say what else as well, I mean, you could also be like doing a little bit of three-dimension, where I say there could be some social media support in this. So you've maybe created some kind of maybe IGTV, or Instagram TV, like a stream. You could have done a poll on Twitter, like I say, many, many, many times. You could have done many different things, right? And you can do follow-ups, or I say pre-production or post-production, right? So from these questions, you will get answers that will help you create a link, right? That'll have meaning, body, and everything that I've mentioned above, right? So if we have a look just a little closely to what is in your textbook, just a little bit of a snapshot here. So the story summary is, so we have to have a look here, in planning sheet. Emotivity, so write down the exact emotion that you're feeling about the topic, excuse me. Then write the emotion that you wish to evoke by telling the story. The promise, I'm going to explain just a little bit more on each one when I just go through so you understand the whole aspect of it. So the promise, the exact promise or tease, right? The hook, write down obviously how you're going to grab their attention in the first 10, maybe 20 seconds. And then your point of view, so personal story of your own that relates to the topic. It doesn't always have to be about your particular experience, but it can be about what you've seen, what you have, you've heard, what you have walked by and saw or seen, etc., etc. So the story that you heard about that particular topic, or a story so we give a little bit, again, kind of like points of view and perspective, so different angles as well. What thoughts are you having in your own head? What opinions do you have? But encouraging a two-way conversation. The powerful punchline: what is the resolution? How will the link end? Okay. So again, with the payoff, kind of the call out as well. If you want to call to action, so if you want them to give you, obviously a call, you can speak to them on air or send you a voice note, or just send your voice note so that you can actually decide maybe to put them on air and have a conversation. And then again, there must be like the link must come to an end. Just want to kind of move back into a little bit of detail with that, like emotivity, right? So what is it? So if you want to revoke a little bit of anger and frustration, but also a little bit of empathy, maybe, and connection, then put that down, because that'll obviously help you in the way that you are delivering a conversation, just like you would, for example, I don't know, like let's think of something quite drastic, like delivering the news of someone's death to a loved one. And I mean, you could do it quite clinically and cold-heartedly and just say, like I'm sorry for your loss, and this is what happened, which is kind of what doctors actually do because they can't have emotions in front of patients and stuff, right? But let's say you are a friend of the family, perhaps you're working there, and you're coming through, you're going to have to take a lighter, like a much lighter, a much more sensitive approach, very careful. But you will also definitely have to share in that type of the kind of devastation and the trauma. Do you understand that they are going through as well? And you'd have an emotional and very natural emotional reaction to it as well. So again, it's about how, for example, let's take that doctor and to coming in with two different approaches. And you will write that too. The promise is again the teaser. So let's say we have the link before, and we tease it in a very enticing way. This is coming up, but remember, like what makes this link so special is the fact that it focuses on the number one problem in South Africans in 2023. In fact, to make it quite specific, maybe on the 6th of May. Understand? So a bit of a teaser that's coming up in 10 minutes time, 10, 15 minutes time, and then you will build your link around this. Yeah. So let's continue here. So let's play out all the segments. I'm just zoom in just a little bit here so you can just see. And I'll just scroll up and down, but this is really what I want to look at. So the type of link, character stories and storylines, right? Serialized content. So serialized content means that like what happened yesterday, day before, we're now just kind of continuing on that, building on that out of studio. So for example, you are having like street vox. Vox pops is the voice of the populi, right? So population. Like, are you going to have that as part of the production of this particular link? Listener games, features, or promotions? Will you have a guest interview? What were you about? With who? And with in what context? Like, is it a caller? Like I say, like a call out piece where you're gonna have callers, phone topics, interaction, or you're gonna produce a sketch, a parody, something funny, right? Remember, seasonal content also is very important. So, for example, Christmas, New Year's, maybe Easter, winter time, springtime, summertime. So things that happen all the time, right? And happen recursively as well. Okay. Something new and buzzworthy, for example, a new Nike advert or a television show, like without giving like kind of like selfless promotion to Nike. If it has a talk like a talk length, something that is thought provoking, and is a conversation we can have around a bigger, like a bigger scope, not just focusing on Nike itself. If it is something maybe good, saying we're promoting Nike, but we also do not want to devalue or kind of like what is it when they say you have it's like an attack on the character or whatever it is, because we can get in a lot of trouble, sued, etc. Videos and viral pieces, either created or found. Very cool to add some spice to your link many ways. So ideally what you want to do is when you are starting out, try and not use all those bells and whistles. Try and just do a constructed link that it begins and ends, it makes sense. It was great. People loved it. They interacted with. So it seemed like one too many P's. Let's take that away. Uh, anyway, okay. I just got it right. Anyway, oh yeah, enable editing. Anyway, all right. Okay, plan all segments beforehand. Every link, regardless of its nature, can and should be planned, documented, and then once again executed using the previous plan sheet. So a little bit of exercise that I've written up here for you. Use the impromptu cell app. This is something that I've used just now for maybe 2.5 weeks now because I knew I was going to go back on air, and I wanted to get my thought process and my tongue and my mouth a little looser, quick thinking, kind of responsive thinking. And what the app does is that it'll give you three categories, right? that you can choose from. And within those three categories, it'll give you three particular, let's say, talking points, right? When you decide on one, it'll give you 2 minutes to prep, and then it'll give you a 3 or a 5 minute link that you actually have to fill out, right? So it's really great. It's great. And look, if you fail and fail and fail, it's great. These are good things because you wanna. This is how you learn. You understand? So an app like this, I guess it's been existing for quite a long time. Didn't really have the use for it for, I'd say, since a lifetime ago until now, and I find it to be really effective and great. Just again, kind of to get you and your mind kind of started. Like electricity in it. No, no reference to load shedding at all. We're over that, right? Hold weekly planning and brainstorming meetings. Now we're just going to break it down to the end of the lesson. So in these weekly meetings, for example, if you're a presenter and a producer, like if you are going to hold a weekly as opposed to also like your daily, because you're going to have those daily meetings to know what it is that you're going to do for the next show, like what discussions can we have to see how maybe they are viable. Conversation and brainstorming within that will allow, obviously, for really great shows to be produced and put together and presented and executed. But again, maybe a weekly meeting to see weak points and strong points and points of opportunity and risk or whatever it may be, things that could have possibly quite ruined the show and things to watch out for. So kind of like red alerts and stuff are great. It also allows for bringing like a better culture and connection between team members as well. Everyone's invested. You are getting to know them both as a professional, but as a creative as well, and then also as a friend, right? RadioWarfare.com introduces their prep services as a way to supercharge your radio station or show. Bits and Pieces, FMJock.com, is a prep service from the UK. They describe their offerings as full of topic gags, daily competitions, talkers, phoners, and Facebook prompts to get your show interactive. And you can see some of the examples on page 132 to 136. So I'm going to leave it at that. I'm saying in terms of this because this is not a great way for you to cop out. I've said this before about prep services. Like they might be nice and tempting, but if you rely too much on someone that's going to do the work for you, there are free services that also do it for you as well to a limited amount. And obviously, then you must subscribe and pay or whatever it is. Like it's great and all. So let's let someone else do the work, but it's never going to have the value and authenticity as well as also your growth and the reflection of your growth and efforts in that show. So I'm going to leave it at that. I don't really think it's a great idea at all. I don't think I know. Okay, so the RIP formula: research, internalize it, and then perform it. Okay, so Stone and Giger or Jiger um, came up with this method for a way that you can approach again and follow certain characteristics when you are producing content for your show. So that's great. I mean, you have to research, but you also have to understand, like, how does that make you feel? Like, because you have to be linked to the listener. How will it make them feel? How have people already reacted to this? Like, what are the, like I say, the ripple effects, the effects, or the cause and effects, or reactions, or whatever it is that this has, etc., etc. Right, and then to perform that again is to execute that. How will you properly plan it so that it can be performed correctly as well? So it's not just about the performance, but the thing is that if you give an actor a bad script, they're going to act a terrible, terrible role. Do you understand? Act out a terrible role. And that's the truth. And we've seen that. And we say the movie is bad or the acting's terrible. But you know what? Yes, sometimes the acting is bad. We've seen that in a lot of B rate and C rate films. But most of the time, actually, it's the script writer's fault. And so you would see that as a comparison to you prepping well, making sure that it is constructed correctly, so that you have your best chance of really making things shine. The RIP formula: types of music and sound effects that you might be able to add. So don't make like a habit out of this, because it makes it a little bit cheesy and corny. So maybe if you are running a feature that is, maybe it's time based, you could have a like a clicking yeah, a ticking clock, and that could be, that's a regular thing. It's not irritating. Whatever it is, it obviously supports the feature or whatever. The number of people who should be involved in the segment. So let's say on Teams, just remember that you have a variant amount of people, right? So the presenter should be saying, in this link, I want the co-host, but I also want, for example, the newsreader to contribute for this, or the producer, or whatever it is, right? So if you need someone to ask a question to get things going, then let them ask the question. You understand? So within your team and on the space, whatever it is, like, let's start the conversation going, because that will obviously light like fuel within the listener. If it's an interesting conversation, I want to take part of it, or in it. Part of it. Yeah, I want to be part of it. So if you need someone to call at the end, kicker, to get people to call in, then perhaps maybe you should just kind of smoke and mirrors that. If it's something that you feel might need a little bit of a push, but you know that people would need a little bit of a, like I say, like an example. So especially works for features. When you're introducing a new feature, we say smoke and mirrors, which means we allow, let's say, a friend or someone else at the station that is working in another department to be that first caller, just so that the audience understands how, let's say, this particular feature works. And then immediately afterwards, they'll start interacting. They'll also know that, oh, okay, this is a call to action. So let me take part, right? So if the material lends itself to an audience quiz, a mock news bulletin, a fake advert, humoristic sketch, etc., you'll be able to like put that together and realize that. Nearly at the end, I just want to go through Tracy Johnson, who provides tips for content creation. One, make sure that there's contrast. When I say contrast, there has to be depth. So, in other words, people can start thinking about stuff. It'll make them feel certain things. They'll want to be part of and react to. So, that is depth within content and radio as a whole. We want that. We want to resolve a conflict or dilemma. Don't just go out on air to make like a point of fighting, right? Or to just make a point and leave it at that, because you've had your say and that's it, right? Don't also allow your listeners just to complain or say the same thing or say the same thing or whatever it is. You want to reach resolution. That's why you started this particular discussion, right? Seek the extreme. So, again, with seeking the extreme, there might be many cases. There not might be, there will be many situations where you want to be able to go for, you want to go for gold. You understand, and see how far you can push specifically a certain opinion, maybe controversial topic, maybe just see how far you can get without crossing that line. Top 10 lists, they're always entertaining. They're a little bit kitschy, I'm saying. So to give a top 10 list, I would like David Letterman used to always, I mean, it was a feature for all, I think he did for nearly, I think, 3 decades, his late night show. And he would have a top 10 list, and it would be presented by either himself or someone I clearly remember the Snoop Dogg one. There's many. I loved that feature. It was so fun and great, but he had an angle to it, you understand? And he has great comedic writers as well. Top 10 lists can get exhausting if you're not doing it right, or if they stop becoming relevant. Make it a game sometimes. So in other words, make it something that people can just take part in it to have fun, to win, to get a winning moment, to feel, like it doesn't always have to be talk about serious stuff, politics, or my emotions, or this is what happened when I was a child, whatever. Add a guest, discuss personal life and opinions, create unique, original content that you can perform. And with that having been said, look at activity 4C, page 132, and 4D, 134, and complete 4A on page 145. I'm going to end it at that, and I'll see you in class next week.